Welcome to another episode of Breaking Down IT with Steve. I am your host, Steve, with PDX Information Technology Services, and this week I wanted to do something a little different. You know, we talk about technology, we talk about all of the nuances of things going on in the tech world, but I wanted to talk to you about something that I've noticed recently. I deal with small business, and when we're talking small business, we're talking the mom and pop shop to probably about the 30 employee range. So really small businesses. And one of the businesses that I have been dealing with actually went out of business. They said, we're done, we're closing up shop, and we're done. So, you know, I wanted to talk to you because there's a lot of misconceptions about, you know, small business owners. Oh, well, you have all this flexibility and you have all this, you know, time, money, and effort that you put into this. How could you just close up shop? So one of the things that, you know, we're going to talk about today is, you know, how we get into small business, why we do it, how we do it, and a lot of the struggles that small business owners have. And I'm going to bring in Dean Cambray of Cambray Media to ask those types of questions and what he's done as far as, you know, starting out, you know, what do you do? How do you do it? So for me, I started in 2020, as you know, from my very first podcast. And you know, it was a pandemic time, and so it was a very traumatic experience. But there's a lot of things you have to think about when you start a business. You can't just wake up tomorrow and go, I think I'm going to start a accounting business. Okay, great, but how? How are you going to do this? Well, you have to think about, as you can see, we're in a new space, a new office space. You know, you have to talk about your office. You know, where are you going to have this office? Are you going to bring clients into this office? If you work out of your home, are you going to bring clients into your home? That's not very professional, so you got to have an office. But even before that, you have to think about, okay, a name. As you know, my original name was Down I.T. Google hated that name. People loved it because it was very unique. It was very, you know, Down I.T. What do you do? IT. Okay, you know what you do. But Google translated that into idiot all the time. And so I wasn't getting found on Google. So you got to come up with a good name. And you have to come up with something that's unique and distinctive. PDX IT Services is now my name. But you also have to come up with an email address, and you have to come up with a website. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just make this website off of Wix, and I'll just do this plug and play stuff, and it'll be great. I don't have to hire anybody, which is fine. But does that truly represent your business? Does it truly represent who you want the business to look like? And a lot of times the answer comes back no, because it may come back too cutesy or too blocky, or the color scheme doesn't really match, or use too many different kinds of fonts and it just looks like a 6-year-old did it. So, I mean, you're starting out and you're thinking, okay, website, email address, name. Okay, well, I have to accept payments. So what type of bookkeeping am I going to have? Well, I'm going to run QuickBooks Online. Okay, great. In QuickBooks, they don't tell you, okay, coffee is an expense under coffee with clients, or miscellaneous, or they don't give you categories. They may suggest categories, but they don't give you the categories that you're going to want to use. And so you have to put in categories that you all have. And you talk about inventory. If you're a manufacturer, you're going to have a lot of inventory. If you're a retail establishment, you're going to have a lot of inventory. If you're a bookkeeper, not so much, but that's okay. You have to talk about inventory. And so what type of inventory are we going to have? Well, what about invoicing? You're going to do work, you got to invoice your clients, and conversely, you got to accept those payments. QuickBooks actually does it fairly nicely, so you can keep track of that really easily. But again, you have to categorize things very, very well and very, very specifically. So if you don't, then your CPA at the end of the year is going to go, yeah, no, I'm not touching this, redo. You have a whole bunch of things you have to fix. And then you're going to spend all this time, money, and effort, I say that a lot, time, money, and effort, to fix something that you could have fixed throughout the year if you did it properly. And therefore, if you're an accountant, that's not really an issue. But if you're a manufacturer, it might be an issue because you're good at manufacturing the widget. You're great at that. It's the bookkeeping, it's the accounting, it's the marketing. You have to sell to people or businesses this service, and you have to have marketing for it. And so, you have marketing, you have IT, because you're going to go out and you're going to buy a new computer. And okay, great, I have this new computer. I need Excel. All right, I'll go buy Excel. We'll put Excel on it. All right. Cybersecurity may not even come into your mind about, hey, what happens if I get hacked? Well, I don't know if I just talked to my insurance agent about this. Let's talk about my insurance agent about cybersecurity insurance. But they're going to say, okay, well, you have to have these lists of things that are, required for you to do, for you to be compliant with your cybersecurity policy. So being in small business is not easy. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money. And so I wanted to bring in Dean, Dean Cambray of Cambray Media. He's the one that's producing this and has produced all of my podcasts. And ask him, starting your business, what was one or two or three of the major things that you didn't think about when starting it, and you were like, oh, I need to do this, and it's after the fact?
I guess from a technological point of view, you never think it's as hard as it actually is. So, mind you, my first career, I was a chef for 20 years. So coming behind the camera was a huge change, but you still feel the commercial arena is a lot easier, but it's not. There's no romance. You've either got the shot or you haven't. You get a client, you either keep that client, they're really happy, or they just move on. So the pressure to maintain, learn, and develop your business is hard. I guess as well, in those days, there was no YouTube. Everything you learnt by reading a book. I don't know whether you've ever seen an Adobe manual for Photoshop. It's not the most entertaining read on the planet. So that was another thing. And you're completely overwhelmed, especially in what I do. So I produce large projects, books, documentaries, all that type of thing. And you're just, the actual job of filming, editing, scripting is overwhelming. So you just kind of delivering to your clients. So, and then you have the other side of it, business, your internet security, which, through your business goes through a lot of iterations as well. So when you first start, you don't need a lot of these things. You know, fast forward 10 years, I was flying a lot. You know, I flew for 10 years. So just something like using a VPN in Australia or using a VPN in a lounge here, paying bills on different credit cards in different countries, being hacked, you know, having credit cards stolen. These are all things you never think of until you get a phone call and say, hey, have you just bought $4,000 worth of gold in Singapore?
Not recently.
No, I'm actually having a coffee in Sydney.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you don't think about when you say, okay, I'm going to start a business, and this is what my business is going to be. It's going to be in IT, all right? What happens when when you get hacked, and the cleanup and the loss of reputation, and you have to notify your clients saying, hey, we've been compromised, we're taking action, blah, blah, blah words, but it doesn't really solve the problem. So, so Dean, you've been listening to a lot of podcasts that I do and editing these podcasts. What are some of the key takeaways that you didn't realize when you started out that, hey, these are the things I need to think about?
I think your security, your internet security. We carry a phone with us which has access to everything. And I've had a laptop stolen and I've had phones stolen. And I realised then, I mean, having listened to you, I implement all the things you talk about. And they're not expensive. They're just Bitdefender, for example, on your mobile. It's just a piece of cake. A couple of dollars a month and you have that security. I'm just really aware of internet security. I mean, even someone like me, a relatively small business, you get scammed every day. And usually when you're busy, that's when you get caught out. So if you've got all these kind of security on your computer at home, on your laptop, on your phone, everything you've talked about, I think, yeah, and it's interesting when you talk to your friend who was another fellow champion of the geekdom. He said, you asked him the question, what are and he just reiterated everything you'd said. So I've learned a lot, and I pass it on.
Good. That is the key. And my goal for doing these podcasts is not just to get my name out there and look pretty in front of a camera, because that's never going to happen. But also to put those cyber criminals out of business. I want them to suffer. I want them to have to go get a real job instead of scamming grandma out of her life savings because they picked on her. So I want to make sure that businesses, people are secure, safe, and connected as well as they can be. And so our next podcast will be on, we talked about this just a second ago, a public Wi-Fi, a shared Wi-Fi. So tune into that next week. And with that, this is Steve with PDX IT signing off.